Okay, welcome to chapter 5. This happens to be the last chapter of Matlab, that is Introduction to Matlab. And this will be basically hands on programming. We are going to experience so much hands on hands work in here. But it's quite unfortunate you guys are not here, so I'll try to demonstrate this as much as I can. Okay, so that is that. Okay, so before we get into this whole programming thing or hands-on thing, I would like us to get note of these two things. That once we talk about MATLAB, there's a special feature of MATLAB, okay, called M file. That is to say that any function that you've used so far, whether to subtract, okay, all these are being built under our functions, okay, and they are being termed as what, the M file. They all have their extension as what, .m, okay, that is their extensions. And with these two extensions, we have two forms of it, okay. We have the script file and we have the function file, okay. Now if you would like to compute addition, if you like to compute subtraction, this computation will be based on a pre-written set of codes laying somewhere in the MATLAB what setup, okay. So all these are function files which are being needed to execute what certain programs or computations that we like to do, okay. So these are more or less like inbuilt into the MATLAB software or the system. These are the function files. Now let's talk about the script files. Okay. Now once we talk about the script files, okay, just as in the case of the R, okay, you could have the editor, of which the editor is going to contain a list of what commands that we like to run, okay. So this script file in the case of MATLAB will serve the same purpose as that of what the R editor. In this case, this editor is going to contain the set of what codes or commands that we like to run, okay. So let's go back to our MATLAB and see what is happening in here. Now suppose that let's clear this screen first. Okay. Now remember that we were able to plot some graphs in there, okay. But before we get to see this editor, okay, which is the same as the script file in this case, you can see that we have home, we have new scripts, okay, that is a button here. Now once we create that, this is just going to give us an editor in which we can enter our lines of codes or commands that we need to run, okay. So remember that we did do something on this space. Let me just copy and just paste it here, okay. We created a space, created I think a variable y1 up to y4. That will be under the chapter, is it three or four? Yeah. And in there we created subplots, okay, about four of them, okay. Now you can remember that we were running all this line of code one by one, okay. But however, if you would like to run all this with a click of a button, it is best done using the editor, okay. And that is similar what we're going to do. So for us to do this, all that we need to do is go to the home and create a new script, which we've done here, and paste all the codes that we need to or all the commands that we need to run, okay, as we say here, okay. So once you are done, for you to be able to run this, we need to save the script, okay. So once we come to editor, we can save the script. So for instance, suppose I would like to save this as let's say try example. Remember with the naming of variables in MATLAB, you can introduce a space, so you can use the underscore, okay. So try let me call this try plot or try subplot. Yeah, try subplot since the script is about subplot. Okay. So once you do that, you can see that the name has been saved right here. Okay. So it means everything is ready. My script file is ready. Okay. So immediately I click on run, this is just going to run the whole course for me, and voila, this is just going to run everything for us. So instead of entering all these codes in the command window one by one, you get to enter everything in the script file, okay, in the editor, and you can run this all at a go. Okay, so this is the difference between the file function, the function file, and as well as what the script file. The function files are set of what inbuilt what let's say functions that help execute what programs, and the script refers to the script in which a sequence of commands or statement can be what written. Okay, so with this, for instance, if you like to add 2 or 3 things at a go, okay, we are going to use the function, let's say add. Now this add will not do anything unless it goes to what locate a certain function file called add before you can add these 3 things you are looking for. Okay, so these function files are built within Matlab. Okay, so anytime you do x plus y or something, this plus is an indication that it should go and utilize the function file called what indicated by this designation, that is the plus, which is the add, and this will go look for add and just add this as simple as that. Okay, now in also you can define simple functions yourself. That is, you can write functions in the form of an external m file. Now with this, you can create a function called f, where in this you are going to specify an inline, that is inline, and you are going to specify the function in here. Okay, so with this, once you're able to create this, it implies that anytime you call out this function, which is you assign as f and introduce any variable in there or any number, this will just go and pick the function file or this m file and just put in x, which is just going to just estimate this function for you. Okay, so in this case we have the function f to be an inline function. That is a function that is more or less like an equation. That is the function we are trying to introduce in now. Okay, so once you do that and we call out the name of the function and specify any variable, this is just going to put the value we just indicated here into the function that we created and just come up with the functional evaluation as we see right here. Okay, also we can also do a function that is also somehow going to plot. Okay, so in this case we are going to make use of the function fplot. We specify the function and specify the range of what this axis or the range of what the function. Okay, so in this case we are creating a function called using the plot, and this is the details of the function, and we would like to plot from 0 to 8. So as you can see, 0 to 8, and this is just going to plot this function beautiful for us. Now in the case of making your, let's say, your program more interactive, you can think of introducing functions such as the inputs. I believe you guys learned this, I think, in your C++ input and output. Okay, now, in the course of a program, you can ask for input for the user to input variables, okay? And we do that by using the function inputs, okay? So if you would like to designate a number to the variable age in which you would like the user to input that number in the course of running the program, you can just specify it in this case. So in this case, once you run this, this is going to come out on please enter your age, okay, in which the user is going to enter the number, and this is just going to assign the number to the variable age as we see in here. Okay, now let's see how we get to print out some outputs or some things that we like to see, okay, or output certain things that we like to know. Okay, now in printing, Matlab, we use the function fprintf to print out any output that we like to see. Okay, but in the course of the printing, we could alter the features of this printing. Okay, now if you like to print out everything in the form of a string or a text, you can use the $s to do that. Okay, now if you like to print everything as an integer or the output as an integer, we are going to use the $d to do this. Now to print as a floating point, we are going to use the $sign and f. And to print in the form of a scientific notation or in the form of an exponential form, we are going to use the $e. Now we use the /n to insert a new line. That is, if you like the print out to, after printing, you move on to a new line. And if you like to insert a tab, we use the / and the tab to also do this. Okay. So let's see some of the things that we can do with this. Okay. Now, suppose that we assign 75 to grade, okay, as we see here, okay. So how do we get to print this, okay? So in making this interactive, we can say that we would like to print the grade such that some sort of preamble is going to come out, okay? So you can see that my grade is in here. You can see that we have some notations in here. And remember, anytime we see $sign and f, we are trying to say that it should format to a floating point. Okay. Now, looking at it, you can see that we have 0.2, meaning that it should convert everything to a floating point of 2. And after everything, it should move everything to the next line. Okay. So you can see that from the beginning, we entered grade to be 75. Okay. And you can see that once we run this code, you can see that my grade is, that is the string that we have here, is 75, and that is the grade that we have here. But with this grade, we made an argument that we need it to be a floating point of 2 decimal places, and that is the 2 decimal places. And a new line, once the whole of this is done, it should move everything to a new line. So if there are more things that we like to do, they will be appearing on the new line, but will not continue on this line. Okay. Now let's do more on this. Now suppose that we also like to print again, but this time with the preamble last grade of Adele is 75. Now you can see that in this case, we would like to introduce a $sign and s. Okay. Now remember that the $sign and s is going to as a string. Okay. Then followed by s, which is also a string. Then also a $sign and d. And remember that a $sign and d refers to an integer. Okay. So first of all, we have a $sign s and followed by a $sign d. Okay. So it's more or less like the first one will correspond to the first output that we define here. Okay. So it means that the first one will come out as a string, and the second one, which is the $sign d, will take that the second input, which is the grade. So this Adele will be formatted as a string, and grade will be formatted as an integer. Okay. So in all, you are going to see that the last grade of Adele is 75. And remember, Adele was computed as a string, and 75 was computed as an integer because of this $sign d. Okay. Now let's do more on this. Now we'll also like to print, okay, the total amount of force is a certain Newton something, a certain number, and its unit Newton. Okay. So with this, you can see that we have a preamble. The total number of force is, now in here we have a $sign a. And remember, a dollar sign E refers to what? Exponent. That is the scientific notation. Then we have the Newton. Okay. So in this case, this scientific notation is going to be formatted on this value that we have here. Okay. So this is going to convert everything that we have here into a scientific notation, and that is exactly what we see here. So the total amount of force is converted to a scientific notation, then Newton one follows. Okay. Then with the last one, we have kind of what prices are. We are going to convert the first one to an integer, the second one to an integer, and the third one to an integer. Okay. So this one is going to pick act on the 25, the second on the 40, and the third on what, the 60. Then finally the US dollars. Okay. So prices are 25, 40, 65 dollars. Okay. So this is how we get to print some things, and as well as modify how they appear on the output using what, Matlab, using the fprint f1 command. Okay. Now let's see how we get to this conditional, some loops, and as well as some selections and repetitions. Okay. So let's start with the if else if statement. Okay. Now this if else statement is something, or if statement is something you've come across back at I think C++. Okay, and you guys know how this works. Okay, so it's more or less going to compute or execute a program until a certain condition is being satisfied. Okay, and this is how it is being done in Matlab. So first, we are going to specify our if, and we specify the condition. Okay, now if it happens to be true, the next block of what, statement would be executed. However, if everything in there is false, then the next word follows. But if you should have more conditions, you could just what, bring them down in here. So let's see an example. So suppose that in your normal CWA or in your normal exam, if you happen to have an exam score of 50, or a weighted average of 50, it means that what, you failed. Okay. However, if any number other than less than 50, it means that what, you passed. Okay. So this is a condition which we could do in Matlab using the if statement. Okay. So in Matlab, we could write this as if your mark, or in this case, we are trying to assign your mark to what, um, oh sorry, this is just a different example. Okay, so this can be just typed in Matlab as we see in here. So if grade is less than 50, it should display that you failed, else it should display that you passed. Okay, right here. Okay, now let's talk about the speed of moving objects also in the second example. Okay, now if the speed of the object traveling is less than Mach 1, then it means that this object is moving at a subsonic what, rate. Okay, if the Mach is greater than 1, then the flow is some kind of what, supersonic. Okay, however, else, and this else is only going to apply if the Mach is exactly equal to what, 0. Okay, that is the condition where this else is going to work, because we have less than 1, we have greater than 1. Okay, so if this Mach is, or if this Mach is exactly equal to 1, then we have what, the flow is what, sonic. Okay, and that will be the condition for this aspect, this last aspect. Okay, so that is how the if statement goes to work in Matlab. Okay, now also we could have the switch and statement. Okay, now remember from C++, this switch statement works such that this is going to switch to a specific line of code provided that condition is doing what, met. Okay, so in this case, we are going to use the switch function and a specific variable. If the variable is equal to a certain value given a certain case, then it's just going to run that case, okay, exactly that case, and just end that. Okay, so in that same case, using the map example, we can ask the user to input the mark. Okay, so if the user should enter mark of 1, it means that this switch should only compute or execute on the case 1. However, if the user should enter mark of 0.5, then it will skip case 1 and just do this case. So depending on the case in which the user is just going to enter, this switch statement will automatically move to that case and just execute that function below. Okay. Now let's look at some loop statement, that is the for loop. Okay, the for and end statement. Okay, and remember this is just going to repeat a certain block of code until the statement or it does not satisfy the argument anymore. Okay, so with this we are going to specify the statement for and the expression, and this is just going to loop until it is out of what the looping range. Okay, so for instance, suppose that we have this function that is s equal to k square, and we are going to loop until we get to from 1 up to 10 with an increment of what 1. Okay, so this is just going to find the square for each of what 1. So this is going to take when k is equal to 1, execute or compute k squared, okay, and just print out this output. Okay, so this is going to print the square of, remember we are going to run into this is dollar sign of d, which will be an integer, and the rest what follows. Okay, and this is just going to give us what the k value, and as well as what the simplifying, that is the one the square of what the k. Okay, so this is just going to give us the square of k, or which is in this case the square of k is equal to 1, the s. Okay, remember, so if k is equal to 1, s is also equal to 1. If k is equal to 2, s is equal to what 4. Okay, so this is just going to loop until the k terms have been what existed from 1 to 10. So as soon as k gets to 10, the code is being what terminated. Okay, now the continue statement. This continue statement jumps to the next line of iteration. Okay, so for this case, we have k is equal to 1. That is, we are going to look for 1 to 10. Okay, where in this case we are going to continue provided k, if k is equal to what 5. Okay, so once we introduce in this argument, as soon as the looping starts, once it gets to k is equal to 5, it's just going to skip the fifth when k is equal to 5 and move on to the next one iteration. Okay, so looking at the output here, you can see that the iteration will do for 1, 2, 3, 4, but as soon as it gets to 5, it's just going to skip and continue from 6. Okay, so this will continue until it gets to the 10th, and that is what this code is doing. We could also think about the break. Okay, just listening to its name break. Okay, so this is just going to occur until it gets to certain criteria, which in this code we have to be our 5. Okay, so if k is equal to 5, then it should break. Okay, so in this case it's just going to compute. Once it gets to 5, it's just going to terminate everything, as simple as that. And we also have the while end. Okay, so this expression is just going to go through. Okay, as simple as that. So in this case we have while k is less than 10, it should compute k raised to the power 3 and just compute what we have here. Okay, so with this the user will keep on entering values of k. Okay, now provided this k happens to be less than 10, this will keep out printing these values until this k becomes what greater than 10. Okay, so this is what will happen in this case. Okay, and as simple as that. So for this function, k has been 5 has been assigned to k. So once we initiate this while statement, okay, so for k is equal to 5, so the first instance is going to be 5. Okay, it's going to test it with this condition whether it's less than 10, and because it's less than 10 it will move on to find its q and print out that. Okay, now once it gets here, it's going to add 1 to the k, which was 5. So for the next iteration, k will be 6 and it will go start again. Is 6 less than 10, then it will continue. So this will continue until k is no more less than or equal to 10, and it will just what terminate there. So this is how the while statement gets to work. Okay, in the in Matlab. Okay, now there is more you could do with this Matlab in terms of finding numerical solutions. Okay, I believe you are doing is it numerical methods and scientific computing. Yeah, you are going to do this in there. So I believe the lecturer involved will handle this accordingly. Okay, so this brings us to the introduction to Matlab, and I believe that it has been an interesting journey. And don't hesitate if you should have any question that you like to ask. Okay, you can always ask, text me, or send it through our platform. Okay, and I'll be very glad to answer your questions for you. Okay, so in the meantime, all I can say is just practice wherever you are. Okay, and remember, all programming languages is all about practice. As soon as you stop practicing, you get to lose that skill. Okay, so practice and you guys will become good at it. Okay, so enjoy your day and bye bye for now.